We're talking about starting an LLC in Kansas, and what you can see behind me here is a checklist that we're going to go through on how to form this properly. But before we get to that, we're also going to talk about how to avoid the LLC dumpster fire. Now, what that is it's a situation where you rush setting up your LLC and you make mistakes, and it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees down the line. And it's because you don't understand terms such as piercing the corporate veil, commingling funds, registered agents, or pass-through taxation. Then after LLC formation, you're not considering things such as like how the LLC renewal process works, and then you're not looking into business licenses and permits. What we're going to do is we're going to explain all these things in this video and then the 2 videos after it. This is a video series, and the way we're going to be able to do that is we're going to kind of zoom out a little bit and talk about what an LLC actually does for your business. So by the time you watch this video series, everything is going to make more sense to you, and you're going to be able to confidently set up your LLC and know that it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is limit your liability. Now, number one here is we want to open up this drop-down box here, and we're going to be talking about the fact that an LLC offers limited liability protection, and then it also offers pass-through taxation. Why don't we start off by showing the example of owning a coffee shop without an LLC. What you can see here is the business owner in the center, and all their personal assets on the left-hand side, their personal home, car, bank account are attached to them, but all their business assets are attached to them as well. So that's like the point of sale, the business bank account, the physical location, the espresso machine, the lights, everything is connected back to the business owner, which is a lot of liability. Now, when you look at this is owning an LLC that owns the coffee shop, and this looks very different. Now the business owner has their personal assets attached to them, but on the right-hand side, we're calling it Acme Coffee LLC, and this is where we have those same assets are all connected to the LLC. The really important part is this division in the middle, this red line. That is something called the corporate veil. That is the division between your business and personal assets. Now, you probably recall earlier we talked about something called piercing the corporate veil. Well, to explain that, what we're going to do is we're going to go into something called commingling funds right now. Now, commingling funds, that's where you set up a business, but you don't set up a business bank account right away, and you run transactions through your personal bank account for that new business. This is called commingling funds. Now, let's say somebody got hurt at your coffee shop and you're being sued. The attorney suing you is going to try to find cracks in your LLC. Let's say they find out you've been commingling funds and they present that information to a judge, and the judge agrees with them and grants them permission to pierce the corporate veil. What that means is this division in the middle here dissolves, and they can come after not only your business assets, but your personal assets as well. That's why it's so important to set up your LLC, but also to do it correctly. So what we're going to talk about next, though, is an explanation of pass-through taxation. So this is important because come tax time, people get a little bit confused with LLCs. The IRS is not taxing the LLC. What happens is the LLC in this hypothetical scenario grossed $140,000. They had $90,000 of expenses, resulting in $50,000 of net income. That $50,000 in net income passes through to the business owner's personal tax return. Sometimes this is referred to as flow-through taxation. So just know that that's going to show up on your personal tax return, and then the IRS is taxing your personal tax return. The reason this is important is because sometimes people get a little bit confused here, right? But it's helpful because it's actually much easier and more affordable to have that pass through to your personal tax return. When you get an S corporation or a C corporation, it becomes a little bit more complicated because it's not going to pass through in the same way. But in the future, you can apply an S Corp designation to your LLC to reduce your tax burden. I'm mentioning this now. I think video 3 of this series, we're going to get into that. But basically, if you're making $40,000 to $50,000 in net income, there's ways to save on taxes with an S Corp designation. Now, I know this is a lot, but it's basically steps you're going to take down the line. So I just want you to be aware of these things now because I don't want you to miss out on potential savings a few years out as your business is doing really well. Now, what I want to talk about now is the actual steps for forming your LLC. Number one is just get this checklist for yourself and explore the bonuses and also the glossary of terms. We have the glossary of terms down here, a lot of helpful information. This video actually will save you a couple $100 because there's common LLC scams that are out there that'll try to get your money to help you avoid those. But then in the bonuses section here, we have an AI chatbot. This is really cool. So you can put in here like stuff like, how do I register an EIN? And it's going to give you that information. We're actually going to explain what an EIN is later in this video. We can also do stuff like how to start an LLC in Kansas. And this is going to give you detailed step-by-step instructions on how to start that LLC in Kansas, which is really cool. You can also use this to brainstorm ideas for your LLC if you don't know what to name it. There's a free charitable opportunity in here, so it's $20 that you can get to charity by setting up your LLC. Yearly accounting calendar. We're going to explain this in the next video in this series, or maybe it's the third video. Forgive me, I can't remember right now. But this is going to be very simple, and it's going to break down these dates for you. Now, I know as we're going through this, it seems like a lot, but what you're doing is you're educating yourself and you're becoming aware of the pitfalls that a lot of people don't see. Because I want your business to thrive and I want to make sure that you didn't skip over a step. So that's why we're being very thorough through this. So just take a moment to breathe, congratulate yourself, all right? And we're going to keep working through this, okay? So next, what you need to do is decide which route you want to go. State website, online LLC services, or business attorney. So you can use any of these routes for setting up your LLC. There's pros and cons to each. In the next video, we're going to deep dive on this specific topic because I see people overspend by almost $1,500 when they go the wrong route. But for the sake of this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the state website. I'm going to show you what the articles of organization looks like so that we can get your LLC filed. Now, before we get to that, we need to decide on a business name for your LLC. Here's what you need to know. You need a unique LLC name that is not already taken in the state of Kansas. And also, the name itself doesn't really matter a lot as long as it's unique. The reason I say that is, let's go back to the Acme Coffee LLC name. Terrible name for a coffee shop, right? What you can have is something called a DBA, which is a doing business as, or a fictitious business name that lives with that LLC, and that becomes your brand name. So maybe you have Espresso Yourself Cafe as the DBA with your LLC. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. But once you have an LLC name picked out, you can go to the state directory list here, and then we're going to scroll down to Kansas. So what you can do is click on registering a business and then business search. So I'm going to do a search here by business name. Now, if I put in Jayhawks here, this isn't going to be a big surprise to you, but there's going to be a lot of businesses with the name Jayhawk, right? Now, if I was to just kind of jam out on my keyboard and click search, what do we see now? Well, no entities found. This is what you want to see when you're searching your LLC name within the state of Kansas, all right? So once you see that, you know that you have a unique LLC name because this is the state database. Next, what you're going to do is we're going to actually get your LLC formed. There's this little half step you can do, which is registering your LLC name. I just mentioned this because I don't want you to get confused. This is simply just owning that mark, that LLC mark, but it doesn't actually form your LLC. It's kind of like buying a domain name and never setting up the website. You don't actually have a website, you just own that domain. What you actually need to do is write your articles of organization, all right? There's a state directory right here, and these bullet points will highlight what goes into the articles of organization. But again, what we're going to do is we're going to click on Kansas, and here is what your articles of organization looks like in terms of the state of Kansas. Now, let me zoom in a little bit here, if I can get my fingers to work. What you can see is that the online articles of organization is 160, paper articles of organization is 165. So they're trying to push you into the online format. This is the paper PDF version of that. Most people are going to create an online account with the state and then go through that route if you choose to use the state website. But just know that the $165 or $160 here, there's no way around that fee. You are paying that whether you go through the state website, an online legal tool, or a business attorney. You're always going to pay that fee. But then as we go down here, you can see you have the contact person, their number, credit card information, etc. But then here we are, name of the limited liability company. You have already got a name. You figured out one that is unique. Then number 2 is name of resident agent. Now, as you can recall in the video, we said we were going to talk about registered agents here. Typically, it's called a registered agent. In Kansas, they actually call it a resident agent. What that is a third party that handles important communication and documentation for your business. So let's say you were being sued and the attorney is going to sue you. You're going to get a service of process notice. The registered agent is going to make sure that you get that notice and that you're showing up to court with all the documents and information that you need at court. So this is an important position. Now, a few rules around it. You have to have a registered agent on file. They have to have a physical mailing address within the state of Kansas, and it cannot be a P.O. box. All right. So those are the things you need to know. If you go through online LLC services, a lot of them will actually have professional registered agent services for you. And one of them in particular actually has a free service, which is nice, where it's free for the first year. And we're going to be talking about that in the next video. If you go through the state website, though, they don't give you information. It says do not leave blank, right? So then you're left wondering like, well, what is it? Where's their address? All those things. So that's where the state website is a little trickier because they just don't give you as much information. All right. But again, your registered agent service there, that's where you're going to put that. So once you assign a registered agent, and again, highly recommend watching the next video in the series because we're going to deep dive into all of that. What you need to do is file your articles of organization. So you mail it in or you go through the online form and you pay your fee. And then you're going to create and sign an LLC operating agreement. This is not required, but it is recommended. This is a situation where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Let's say you have this coffee shop, it blows up, it's in different states, you got like 15 locations, right? Well, what do you do if you had a partner and they want to exit the business? Well, that can get a little tricky. If it hasn't been spelled out originally in an LLC operating agreement where it tells us about who the managers and members are, what are their roles and responsibilities, what happens if somebody wants to exit the business, what you're going to have to do is go through a lengthy legal battle that can cost tens of thousands of dollars to figure out the valuation that person is due. So again, an LLC operating agreement is just one of those things that prevents big issues down the road. So it's a good idea. If you're using the online legal tools, a lot of them will have a boilerplate template you can use if you have a simple business. If you have a very complex business, you may want to hire a business attorney to really dial in that LLC operating agreement. Now, next after LLC or formation is setting up an EIN. There's an IRS link here. An EIN is an employment identification number. And basically what that is like a social security number for your business. This allows the IRS to identify your business, and it's completely free when you go through this setup here to apply for this and get your EIN. You can go through the online legal tools as well. They'll do that for you. The state website will not. If you're going to have people on payroll, you're going to need an EIN. Also, if you're applying for a business loan or office space or something like that, it looks a little bit better to be able to put your EIN on there instead of a social security number. So very easy to do. You can set this up for yourself, and I highly suggest you get that as soon as you get your LLC formed. Next, what you want to look into is looking into the necessary licenses and permits for your LLC. There's a nice SBA resource on here that you can check out when you get this document. But what you need to know is that these can be required on the federal, state, and local level. Let me give you the example of starting a brewery. Well, you're going to be brewing beer, distributing beer, and possibly serving beer on premise. Those three things can each require different licenses and permits. And again, they can happen on the federal level, the state level, and the local level. What I would suggest on the local level is just call your town clerk and say, hey, I'm just looking to know what department I need to talk to. It may be the building department, zoning, it could be a different department. But just say I'm starting this type of business and I want to know what business licenses and permits I may need. With the state level, you can just simply Google Kansas plus business license permits, all right? It'll take you to the state website and you can research there. And on the federal level, you can do the same thing as well. The online LLC services, those will actually do this research for you if you're feeling a little nervous about doing it yourself. So they will set you up. It's usually around $100 to $150 for that service, and it's a standalone price usually. But just know that the online legal tools will help guide you through this as well. Now, what I want to talk about next is the different options for your LLC formation. In the next video, we're going to talk about the fees associated with setting up your LLC. There's actually an embedded cost calculator that I'm not going to show you right now. We'll show you in the next video. And that is going to show you down to the dollar what it costs to own your LLC for 5 years in your state. So that's really important you check that out because I've seen people overpay by close to $1,500 when they get their LLC set up. Next, we got the star ratings. We're going to explain where these come from when comparing the different options for you. And then why state websites can become a pain. This has to do with domestic versus foreign LLCs. Just a good thing to understand anyways, even if you're not planning on expanding at a certain time. But then we're going to talk about the questions worth asking. And as we go through these questions, I want to just get your brain going on things that you can do within your business in the future that's going to help optimize your business as well. And it's also going to help kind of guide you on which path that you should go when it comes to looking at the three options in front of you for forming your LLC. Before you do all that, again, I highly suggest you get this free document for yourself. There's a link in the description below. And in this next video, we're going to break everything down and continue your education so you get your LLC set up correctly and you get off and running with your new business. All right, we'll catch you in the next video.